Hey folks, Friday 29th of April and coming up towards the close of what feels like has been a very long month in these markets. What we saw yesterday was some, really good appreciation across these markets. Apple coming in with really fantastic results yesterday. Amazon getting the proverbial beatdown on sort of higher costs attributed really to their Rivian investments of around $7.9 billion. So losses seen there. The stock getting punished in the after hours. I think we were down about 13%. Now I think it's trading roughly around -8% in the pre-market today. So sort of mixed, but generally enough to lift the Nasdaq certainly higher into the close. Big old gap there on the Nasdaq that we're going to have a look now at this morning. There's also a gap down on both of these, Nasdaq and the SPOOs. One thing to note from the macro fundamental point of view is that Beijing is now out of a very stringent lockdown, and with that, I would presume that there are further unlockings to come across Asia. So with that, we should see oil demands start to come back. And sure enough, yesterday there was quite a good range expansion that we're going to have a look at here. That has continued to hold. So, get that one out of the way on oil. So you kind of saw there yesterday at around 3 o'clock, half an hour after the US cash equities opened, that range expansion up to the 104.12s. A little bit of indecision there, and then driving up into the close on the session, finishing up there around 105 half per barrel. So, I think we can continue to appreciate on up here to the 108.27s on oil, currently trading 106s. Let's look at that on the daily chart, and you can see here a certain amount of this sort of range expansion breakout yesterday over that trend. And on we go back up to the 108.24s, which of course was a really fantastic area for selling on the 18th of this month. So I think now with unlocking happening in Asian markets, I think we can see that demand come back and potentially start pushing on to much higher prices. I think we are now going to push over this 108s to 109s zone. It's almost 110s here, and of course that comes into play from about 2015. I've shown you that before on these pre-US sessions. So looking for longs in all the right places in oil today. Any pullbacks? I don't know actually if we're going to get a pullback below sort of the low of day here so far. I think we can generally dial in higher prices from now on oil. All right. Another thing before we get on to the equities picture is the Dixie. So, yesterday I'd come into the session reading on Twitter where a lot of people are calling a top turnaround on the Dixie. And while I could see what they're talking about, which is this downward trend here, and just take this off. I can't do that here. While we were actually trading at this trend when the calls were on Twitter for a top on the dollar, but yesterday, we had, and the day before, we had pushed above. So those US traders kind of getting that top wrong at this point, but we have pushed on to 103.8226s, which is the high of the week of the 2nd of January 2017, right? Let's disregard the Fibonacci extension for now. So with that, I was kind of skeptical as to whether that was the top or not. But yesterday, if we look on the hourly bars here, you can see, I'll just take off this big honking red circle. You can see this big doji candle here yesterday. Once I saw that, I thought, you know what? Let's look for some longs in the euro. And sure enough, we've seen dissipation on that strength in the Dixie, and the euro index, of course, lifting its head up from the lows of yesterday. Put in there, 20 past 1, the old open outcry. I think that's, the old open outcry hours. And appreciate up into today's higher prices, up 0.6% on the session. So test above 1.06560s for the euro. And then let's see if we can continue to recede down on the Dixie at that point. Okay, now getting on to the Nasdaq. Really looking at the range that we have here from range high is the 16th of April 21, and range low is the 13th of May 2021. And you've seen generally the buyers coming in on the bottom of that range. So in the center left of your screen, just above my head here, you can see a little bit of excess below on the Globex reopen on Tuesday going into Wednesday. But then Wednesday defending essentially near the bottom of that range, 12,939s, which was the low here of what day was this? The 19th of March. May 2021. The buyers coming in there at about 3:30, just after the open. Then we've basically been driving up since then. Very technical on these gaps, as you can see highlighted in yellow. This will now turn to grey, but we've just come shy of probably about 10 ticks of the gap bottom there, 13,029s, before then finding buyers yesterday, 1 hour after the open, driving up into the close there. Now we have this new gap down that we've had overnight. So this one will turn yellow and this one will turn grey. We'll just make that one kind of grey for now, because we do often see where these prior gaps do find support, and then we keep going on with trends. So look, for this gap to fill, we're kind of just sitting right bang in the middle right now. I think pullbacks to the downside are on the cards on equities. I'm currently short SPOOs this morning, long DAX. And the DAX is just not able to get much higher than its APAC highs here. But anyway, that's the sort of condition or the context on the Nasdaq right now. I think I'd actually, with the mixed earnings on Amazon to Apple, I want to see how we trade today before I start talking about, are we just going to trade back up through this range or not? Gun to my head, yeah, we will trade back up to 14,045s, and we could settle in between these prices for quite some time. But of course, I think next week, if not the week after, we are going to have a Fed meeting, and we're going to have to be looking at some serious talk there around basis point hikes. I think we're pegged to have a half a basis point hike on that. So let's see. I think one thing for sure is that these markets have been pricing in at least a half a basis point hike, to date. So, these downside pushes, we did an analysis in the elite team a couple of months ago, actually, where we looked at the 2015 start of a rate hike cycle from the Fed. And really, we did not, once we had the Fed had telegraphed their intentions, we actually didn't breach those lows. We double tapped the lows from that we saw when the Fed were telegraphing their rate hike cycle. We double tapped that low and then cruised on into what we now have as all-time high prices. So are we going to see that as a repeat now? Well, to look at that, you can kind of really come out on the dailies and kind of look back to that November period where we were talking about the probability of the rate hike cycles, the speed and timing, and well, here were the lows up here, right? So that theory is, that's December. Well, yeah, all right. So we can kind of say these are the lows. There was a little bit of telegraphing in September, October, and funnily enough, we're trading at those lows right now, 42, 44s. So look, I don't want to get too in front of my skis here, but I think we can trade back up to the 20 EMA and back across this range quite easily now. So let's just see how we go. Okay, let's minimize that. And the Dow, the Dow is holding on quite well, better than its peers to a lot of the value here. It's not really taking the highly volatile downside as much as its peers. I still find that this picture on this trend has to resolve itself. I do think we need to trend lower, come lower to then get higher. I just don't know what that picture is going to look like. if I'm looking for equities to trade across the range again. I mean, I think we could maybe then have a revisit on the lows and then trade back up in the range on its peers. But I'm just really talking about what I'm looking at here. But for now, Dow is supporting 33,717s. I do think we need to test 33,613s down below this little line in the sand, as you can see the center right on your charts. Wrong chart to minimize. Let's minimize that. Get the Dow back up. And there we go. You're seeing the Dixie turning here now, sort of an inverse signal as to what we had up at the top here. So is it time to take in my longs on the euro? Maybe. But one thing I've learned from trading the euro over the years is that you don't want to be fiddling with it too much. You can get into really good trades intraday, but then over the course of the following days, that trade can just keep motoring on. So I'm trying to stay in this euro trade for a little longer than just 24 hours. Gold also can't go without talking about gold here. With that weaker dollar environment, you are seeing gold making hay while the sun shines here. We are up 1.2% on gold. Resistance above is 1933s. There's probably a smidge of a retest to happen here on the 1912s into this kind of general area. But I'm still not convinced on gold being the easier thing to trade right now, to be honest. But that's just me. So what else can we see? Yeah, just another thing to note is the morning trend breaks that we're getting right now on Bund and Tinos. Similar structure going on. This is what I call a morning trend. The trend that sets up from the lows of the prior evening and can even coincide with prior lows back here. If we do something like this, extend that drawing back. No, there's no intersection there. But you can see the morning trend, prior day's lows coming in with lows in the morning. And you can see now that's just broken, retested. I think, while we have steadied off on the appreciation on the yield, I think we can probably take a bit of that back now with lower bond prices. Target back down, I think, on the Bund is going to be 152.70s. That is a trend down there that I think we just need to get to. So could see nice follow through on this selling down into that from that break, retest, and down we go. All right, as always, these markets do not move in, it's just not a linear move in one direction or the other. And you're seeing, equities is coming off a wee bit here this morning in the US. All right, that is it for me for another pre-US. Have a great session. It's a bank holiday weekend, Ireland, UK. So go on out there, forget about the markets, forget about trading, enjoy the sunshine on this May bank holiday. And I'll be back to you on Wednesday, actually. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.